new rulers of England, Normans on horseback. And William was their master of the country. He owned it.
William the Bastard of Normandy. 1066. Time to kill white people.
He was not an elected king.
Christians.
When he went to London to be crowned on Christmas Day,
Christmas
the
Day, yeah.
thinking that was their duty now, tried to elect him. They acclaimed him with loud shouts. The Normans, not knowing what was going on, thought this was some kind of uprising.
Killed everyone.
They rushed out of Westminster
Christmas
Abbey
Day.
and burned London down.
Burn London
England
down.
had become a new kind of kingdom, one which was owned, lock, stock and barrel, by its king. The story we're telling through this series, the story of 1,000 years of English history, is the story of this alien conqueror and his successors to the throne.
He's a Khazar rape victim. The Danish were rape victims of Khazars, mercenaries.
Eventually turning into puppet rulers, symbols of
That's
power,
what alien they are.
and how in that transformation they survived through tides of revolution and republicanism, so that today, while they're not quite the only surviving royals in Europe, they alone still lay claim to majesty. Now, how did that happen?
Not just government, your schoolhood friends have got that blood, mush.
The story of William's reign is really...
You thought government's only got evil bloodline shit? Your schoolhood friends have got that filthy blood.
Privately owned land in the country. Its new occupiers were tenants of the king, bound to him. People of the north of England, with their Viking capital at York, were much more bound to Scandinavia than to Normandy. They refused to submit. He punished them by destroying all animals and all crops between York and Durham. According to the chronicles, he celebrated Christmas 1070 in the ruins of York.
4 years later, starve everyone, kill everyone still. Who's the killer of white people, Christian? You fool, yeah.
Even cannibalism. 16 years later, when all the land in England was
No Christian does that. Normans did that much.
There were places in Northumbria that were still utterly worthless. The church, too,
I love cursing these lots of mums, you Normans. I love it.
Archers were stationed inside
Your mums
the abbey,
and daughters.
and orders given that the old chants should be replaced by new ones from France. 21 months was shot, and yet there were limits to his power. A few thousand Normans, most of them not even understanding the language of their new country, couldn't run the place. They needed the English to keep everything working, and William understood that perfectly well.
We wanted to kill all them.
His coronation, he made an oath to uphold the laws of King Edward, to uphold good law and renounce bad. The old courts would continue to function, and old traditions would normally be respected. This oath would become fundamental to the coronation of any king. The question, though, would be who got to wear the crown? When William died, bloated and exhausted at the ripe age of 60, his attendants stripped his body and scattered. What mattered now was who would hold the land he'd conquered and how. It had all been his, and it was he who decided. On his deathbed in Normandy, he handed out the spoils. He gave his eldest surviving son, Robert, his duchy of Normandy. But it was the younger son, the red-haired William Rufus, who the conqueror willed should be acclaimed King of England. And the youngest, Henry, was told he would have to be content with £5,000. But Henry was his father's son. Content with £5,000? Was that likely?
That would be 5 million today. Only 1066, £5,000, isn't it? Gold and silver, mush. 1087.
The key to the plotting that followed.
Forget these Norman rats. I put a curse on their mum, daughter, sister, auntie, nieces. Today, the bloodline, not every criminal, any class A thief, I swear I curse your mum, your daughter, you motherfucker. Norman bloodline. Cancer, you're gonna die soon. My army dies 120 years old in their sleep. My army, my teaching makes people die in their sleep. You silly motherfuckers are gonna die from something more aggressive than cancer. Allah yil'an your mums and daughters, your sons. Everyone in England and Ireland in the world with Norman blood. Italian, Spanish, anyone. Ronaldo, if he's got Norman blood, can have it. If he starts messing about, giving the power to Ugu Saudis, helping the ruling state of the world in Saudi Arabia, Israel, Egypt. Put a la'ana on yous. The 4 horsemen of apocalypse, 4 billion.
And besides, William Rufus wasn't their kind of chap. He didn't marry, he had no children, and as one chronicle puts it,
all things that are loathsome to God and to earnest men were customary in this land in his time. And therefore he was loathsome to all his people and abominable to God.
Which is, of course, homophobic chronicle speak for being gay. On the 2nd of August, in the year 1100, both William and Henry were hunting separately in the New Forest. It was the last day of William Rufus's life. His companion Tyrrell immediately fled and disappeared abroad. William's body was abandoned where it lay, at a spot still marked by this stone. The next day, local
burn that shit down.
To Winchester.
Norman, filthy, Allah yil'an your mums.
Henry had arrived before them.
Norman
Winchester was
filth.
where the royal treasure was kept. He demanded the treasury keys from the guards. They refused to hand them over, saying that Robert, his elder brother, was the rightful heir. Henry drew his sword and declared that no one should stand between him and his father's scepter. Resistance collapsed, and when the peasants arrived with their cart, the lords of England were busy electing Henry as their king, the first elected ruler of England since Harold got
The foreign policy advisors would have come from Khazaria. We destroyed Khazari in 966. 100 years later, 1066, they got
The
England.
Bishop of Winchester refused to give the corpse a Christian burial. Out of respect for his royal status, William Rufus was nevertheless interred under the cathedral tower, and when that collapsed a few years later, everyone said, "Told you so." Henry's coronation at Westminster was an attempt to ensure his authority to rule. He was 32 years old. His father had won the